then.
I have to, don't I?
I think it gets a bit boring. Can't you do something a bit different? Right, you're the boss. I don't think they're paying for giggles.
Okay, right.
What are we going to talk about?
So,
Keep your secret.
So, I'm here today with my mother, who you have met before. I'm sorry I've got tears in my eyes. I've just been crying laughing because Mum said that my introduction is boring. But my name is Helen, and this is my channel, Helen Mary Jo, and this is... So, before we started, I'm just going to have a chat with Mum if she'll behave herself. I just wanted to show you this. I got this little biscuit tin in Marks and Spencer, and I thought it was so cute. So it's got the coat of arms on there by royal appointment, and this was £6. And it's got, I've got them here for a reason, because we've got a cup of tea. We're going to have a biscuit. So these are, what are they? All butter toffee Scottish shortbread thins. So I thought that was pretty good, actually, because it's a nice size. You don't necessarily need a big biscuit barrel, because you don't have them full up, do you? No. So would you like one?
Oh, I definitely have one.
If you behave yourself. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you that. They're in Marks at the moment, £6. Marks and Sparks.
I thought it was a one-off. Oh.
No. No, because I did offer it to Mum, but she didn't want it. She hasn't got anywhere to put it.
I haven't got any tape counters.
So, Mum's staying with me for a few days just for a break off the island. And I don't know why we're laughing, but sorry. So, Mum has done, this is her third video. She's very popular. And I said, oh, we just have... Pardon?
Early on demand.
Well, you're popular on demand.
No, I didn't appear on demand.
You appear on demand, yeah. On request, I think, not demand, yeah. So anyway, I just thought we've done the fashion with Mum, we've done cooking with Mum, and now we're just going to have a little chat because Mum is 91, 92 in June, much to her disgust, but, you know, she's lucky. And we're lucky to have her, and most of the time. And so, oh, this is going to be fun. So anyway, the casserole went down a storm, didn't it?
Yes.
Much to Mum's
my secret is out.
By Mum's bewilderment. And I have to say, I've cooked it myself about 3 times since that day because I'd never actually known exactly what Mum did. So that's always gone down very well. So anyway, I just thought I'd ask Mum a few questions, you know, like if it's not your cup of tea, just scroll on. It was just a lot of ladies said, oh, I'd love to see more of your Mum. And so as she's here, we just thought we'd take this opportunity. And for me, it's quite nice because, you know, it's a record of Mum's wisdom. I'll have it
when I'm gone.
I'll have it when you're gone, yeah, if you go first.
Yes, and help me show your great-grandchildren.
Yep, and that.
They probably moved on technically by then. But anyway.
What, you think it'd be the end of YouTube?
No, I think it'd be something even more clever.
Even more clever. So anyway, I just thought I'd ask Mum just a few questions, like, you know, about her history and stuff, and the changes, obviously, in those years, there's been a lot of changes. So Mum was born in...
1931.
I meant where?
Oh, where? I was born in London.
In London.
Well, in what is now the West End, of course. But a very prosperous place, but wasn't then. Yeah. So.
And where are you in the family? As in sisters and brothers?
Oh, I had a half-sister. My father been married previously. He unfortunately lost his wife with tuberculosis, which was very prevalent at the time. In fact, my sister, her older brother had already died of it. I'm not sure if actually he was the younger or the older.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she lost another.
What, Auntie Kits?
Yeah, she had a brother who died.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes, the brother was after her.
A younger brother?
Yes, because it was a result of her mother having the child that she lost her own life
Oh,
because it was TB and there was no antibiotics or anything in those days.
terrible.
It was very, very common in poorer people, which they were, and we were, but not quite as poor as they'd been.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
So then your dad married.
So my father was widowed, and my sister was about 3, I suppose, who was living by that time with her grandparents. And my father was a jobbing builder, and he met my mother, who was an Irish woman in service, as most of Irish people were in those days if they came over here. And they married, and I was born as their first child. So I had a half sister who was 4 years older than me, I believe. It was about 4 or 5, wasn't it? Yeah. So that was it. And then I had 2 brothers after that. 2 younger brothers.
So Mum was living in London through the whole of...
No, so I lived in London until I was about 5 or 6, and we moved out to the suburbs. And then, for financial reasons, I presume, my father moved us back into London just in time for the Blitz, which started in about June 1940. I think it was, and my younger brother was born in the March of that year. So that was just nice in time for my mother to be living in London with a young baby and 3 other children to look after when the bomb started.
Glad you can laugh.
Yeah, well, I can now. Yeah, so anyway, we survived the war and moved out again to the suburbs, thank God. And that was, what else did you want to know?
That was just the start, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
anyway,
Mum had to...
So I was in London all during the war.
But yeah, so in the air raid sirens went, you had to go down.
We weren't evacuated, and during the heavy bombardments at the beginning of the war, we used to go. Well, we went to an air raid shelter a little bit, and then as we actually lived in a basement, we stayed there.
It was very, very dangerous.
Very dangerous, yeah.
And quite scary. Mum still has very vivid memories of those times, don't you?
Yeah, I do, actually. And it's certainly true. The older you get, the more you remember what happened in the past, where you hadn't thought about it for God knows how many years.
Yeah, it sort of comes back to you.
Yeah, but anyway.
So anyway, and then you met Dad, my dad.
Yes, my late husband was actually my mother and his mother became friends because they both happened to be Irish and they lived near each other. So I met my husband when he was still, I suppose, 14 or 15, but of course didn't, bother with him. And then started going out with him when I was about 17 and then married him when I was 21.
And did your dad approve of your marriage?
No, my sister had already... She decided to get married. She was quite headstrong and like her father. And she wanted to marry a man who'd been in the RAF, who'd been actually in Bomber Command, etc. And my father objected. But in those days, you couldn't marry without permission until you were 21. So she took him to court and it was quite a nasty period, and she got her own way and married him. She was 18, I think. And I was determined that wasn't going to happen to me, so I waited till I was 21. And when he wanted to know what I wanted for my birthday, I told him I wanted to get married. And
you had your engagement ring where?
I don't know where I had it, but it was...
You wore it on a chain?
Yeah, I think probably I did. I can't
well, that's what you told me before. Wore it on a chain around your neck.
Yeah, so they didn't know. And they couldn't object, so that was okay. So then I had a nice church wedding, no problem, and carried on living in the original basement that for the first year or 2, because of course there wasn't much accommodation at a reasonable price in those days, and lived there for a year or 2. And anyway, cut a long story short, I ended back out in the same suburb as my parents were living, and just up the road from them. Wembley, yeah. Yeah, when my son was about 2.
So Mum had my brother first.
Yeah.
And then there was 3.5 years before I came along. And then another sister,
15 months later.
15 months later. And then another 3 girls after that.
No, and then we had a big gap.
Yeah,
Anyway. 6 years. And then I had 3 more girls.
So my dad had 1 son and then 1 daughter and then 4 more daughters.
Yeah.
And
the youngest 3 were called Antonia, Jacqueline and Frances. And my husband used to call them Tony, Jack and Frank.
I think there's a clear message there.
But he always said that there was nothing that a girl couldn't do that a man could do, or whatever.
Yeah, a girl could do whatever.
Yeah,
a
that's
man
what I
could
mean.
do.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was certainly not a chauvinist.
He worked. Yeah, no, he wasn't actually. And we're all quite strong characters, aren't we?
Yeah, and all.
And
really well in the world.
I grew up until I was 11 in Wembley, and I went to school literally at the time. It was right opposite Wembley Stadium. The walk down to Wembley Stadium, and Wembley Empire Pool was along there as well. So when there was any big concerts or anything like that, you know, all the banners used to be on the actual fence of our school. And in fact, one time, my next sister down, she was trying to she was climbing up the fence in the school playground do you remember? Looking at the banner that was advertising something on the other side, and then she fell down and scraped all her neck all the way up here. I'll never forget. She was, it could have been so nasty, couldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, but anyway, do you know how you just remember these little things? And then when I was 11, we moved a bit further out, didn't we?
To a better area.
To a much nicer area. And I lived there until I got married, actually. So, did you ever expect to have 6 children?
No. My ambition would be a career woman.
What would your career have been?
I don't know. I had several thoughts about that. Yeah, I thought speech therapy was one because I did love language and literature, etc. And then I did like fashion and style, so I thought I'd love to be a theatrical costumier, but I didn't do anything worth talking about at all.
You've always sewn. Mum's always sewn, and she's kind of downplaying a little bit her talent because she's very, very good seamstress and
was.
Well, okay. But, you know, and has made lots of costumes for grandchildren and dresses, bridesmaids dresses galore.
Yeah.
You couldn't even count how many bridesmaids dresses you've made.
Over double figures anyway.
Oh, more than, like high sort of teens, 20, I'd say, guessing. And made my wedding dress. Communion dresses, because we were Catholics, confirmation dresses, and all sorts of things really. And then my dad had his own business, and Mum, you worked with him.
My husband became a partner in the business, and then he took it over. And by this time, my youngest daughter was about 10, I suppose. How old was she been? 17?
I don't remember, it's all a blur.
Anyway, it is a blur. Yeah, I've not rehearsed this, as you can see.
It's best.
And I started, because I did have some clerical knowledge, so I helped. I'd always done the wages and that kind of thing for the partnership for some time. And then not always, but when the other people were absent, and then so I could take over, and I ended up became company secretary actually. It was quite a thriving business in the 70s. Yeah, must have been the 70s or 80s, I can't remember.
No, it's all, you know.
Oh my God, it's a blur.
It is a blur,
it is a blur.
Totally.
Yeah, it's all going.
It was a very stressful time, wasn't it?
Very,
because you had a house full of children and young adults.
I was still doing all the housework and the cooking.
Yeah, never had a cleaner or anything.
No, I never had a cleaner in my life until I got too old to do it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but what would you say is the biggest change you've seen in life? If you could just name one thing that's the biggest change that you've seen.
The biggest, you mean
change
technically or
in
just
life,
generally?
like that you've witnessed all these years, you know, going like you've got.
Well, I couldn't say the biggest change,
Well,
could I? Well, I mean, of course, technology, which actually when I was doing the clerical work, I had one of the earlier computers. I was really keen to do it, and I got a black and white
you did,
screen, which cost, I can't remember what gigabytes, whatever you call it now. There was 1,000 or something. It cost £1,000 then, I remember, which is a lot of money. And in those days, you had to code to try, and so I tried to learn to code. And then they brought in Windows, of course, so that was it.
It changed so quickly.
Yeah, so everything marching on. I mean, technology, of course, the whole world's changed.
Sometimes, because like, when I was young,
better or the worse,
we didn't even have a phone.
No.
Well, we finally, in our first house that I lived in till I was 11, our phone just was the office phone, and then at 6 p.m. it switched over to the house phone.
Yeah.
And so during the day there was no phone line. And when I got married, I had a party line phone. So we shared the line with next door, and you picked up the phone. And if they were talking, you had to put it down again, unless you could pick it up really quietly and listen to what they were saying. And nowadays, it's unbelievable because everyone's got their own personal computer in their hand, haven't they?
Yeah.
It's literally unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, communication is the big thing, isn't it? I mean, and, you know, the way the world's opened up, really, you know, it was quite something to go abroad, and now I don't think anything of it. I mean, it's wonderful, that part of it, and if only people learn to live together, it'd be a different world.
And what's the favourite place you visited abroad?
I should say I've been to some beautiful, like, on the continent, you know, Italy and, you know, wonderful buildings in Spain and places like that. But I think I've said to you that the Caribbean, we went on a cruise once, and you know, some of the islands are absolutely beautiful.
And they were things you never, ever would have imagined, would you?
No.
When you were young?
No.
That you'd have ever seen the Caribbean?
No, I never thought I'd drive a car, but I'm still driving or something.
That's
hopefully
true.
Safely. Yeah.
Because Mum had a car that you used to have to...
Oh, the first car I had, it was the crank the engine job with the handle. And at the time I was very pregnant, and we were just about to move. And I suppose it was a Ford. And especially in the morning, I had to be very careful. My father taught me how to put my hand on, you know, not for it to kick back. And I used to have to... A funny story. I was very pregnant, and I borrowed one of my mother's coats, and we were moving from the house in Wembley to the better house, and we'd managed to do it all without much removal bands. And I put the children, the last couple of the children, I suppose it was, in the car, and conked out in the middle of the high street, and I had to get out and crank the car again, and I was bending over, and in those days didn't wear tights, and I was probably quite big, and when I looked up, there were a couple of chaps behind us splitting their sides laughing. I was obviously showing the tops of my legs. I never forgot it.
What did my brother do?
So embarrassing. Yeah.
What did Chris do?
I think he'd already gone ahead with the van. He wasn't with me. He was with
my brother?
Yeah.
Oh.
Chris had gone with his dad. With the van with some other stuff.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
He was quite embarrassed about all that, wasn't he?
Oh, very. He hated anything like that. He's always been quite reserved. Yeah, but, you know.
And then how many grandchildren have you got?
Oh, it's like people say, when I'm introduced sometimes, they'll say, oh, Pat has 6 children and 18 grandchildren, like I've done something clever, you know, something to do with me. As I always say, go.
That's nothing to do with you.
Go forth and multiply. You sow the seeds and off you go. Yeah, so now I have 18 grandchildren. The eldest is 41.
Yeah, 42.
And the youngest has just turned 16. And I have 8 great-grandchildren and another one on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. That's right, isn't it? 5?
No, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No.
8.
Sorry, we've got Livy's 3, Connie 2 is 5, Kate is 2,
7.
Henry, 8.
Eight
So
and a half.
9, 8 and 1 on the way.
8.5, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
I'm
incredible,
blessed.
isn't
I'm
it?
very blessed,
Yeah, it's lovely.
And I haven't done a lot in my life, but
Mum!
I've produced a lot of good people.
Well, yeah, well, that's probably the most important thing you could do in your life, isn't
That's
it?
what you leave behind. Is what
Actually,
matters.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So there we go.
And what have you enjoyed most in your life?
Enjoyed.
Yeah. What's brought you the greatest pleasure?
Well, I can't say what brought me the greatest pleasure. There's so
Can't
many
you?
different things. No, I mean, I wouldn't say one thing has brought me particular pleasure. I have moments of joy and moments of sadness. It's like everything else, isn't it? Really, I couldn't remember offhand anything that particularly one thing to mind. You know, I recall events and things with great pleasure.
What's been the most, I mean, when Mum was it your 80th, we got her experiences rather than gifts, because, you know, you get to an age where you don't need any more stuff, do you? And so my family bought Mum, well, actually just myself and Rob bought you a glider experience.
That was lovely, yeah. I enjoyed
And yeah, you went right up, didn't you? I couldn't do that. It was a beautiful day, wasn't it? Yeah, it was really lovely. A place in Surrey, wasn't it? We went to Latcham.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Katie, our eldest daughter, and her husband are both yachts people, and you know, they qualified, and they took you out on a super yacht, didn't they?
Yeah.
A sailing yacht. I mean, I never got to go out on that, so
beautiful.
I was very jealous.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
And then, what's the furthest you've been abroad? Is it the Caribbean? Furthest you've travelled?
I suppose it must be, yeah, because America I've been to, of course, that's not as far, is it? Is it? No, I suppose it is.
Well, Mum, you went to San Diego, didn't you? San Francisco.
Yeah, I've done San
Hawaii.
Francisco. Yeah, Hawaii. I went to Hawaii, yeah. No, Maui, actually, to be
Maui.
precise.
And when Mum and Dad came back, you're not allowed to say Hawaii.
No, it's Hawaii.
Hawaii. Every time we said, Hawaii.
Oh, we did helicopter ride.
Helicopter through the Grand Canyon.
No, that's helicopter across in Maui, and also we did the biplane over the Grand Canyon. Yeah, you know, like a 4-seater.
Oh, was that biplane?
4-seater, and I think we did a helicopter too somewhere. Yeah, yeah, but those were the days. That was a long while ago. 30.
And then my
30 years.
My dad passed away 20...
Actually, it'll be 24 years on the 15th of February.
Next week.
Yeah.
24 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And it's weird, isn't it? Because when Dad died, I mean, obviously it was really awful and terribly sad and everything. But I thought, you know, that they were getting on. And they're the same age, more or less, as myself and Rob now. So it's so shocking how your perspective changes. But Mum always said as well that she didn't want to live to be really old.
Yeah.
But that kind of kept moving.
I'm being punished.
Punished.
No, I'm very fortunate. I know. No, I'm very lucky to have had very, very reasonable health all my life. And, you know, all I have now is what you'd expect when you get to my age.
Aches and pains.
Yes, quite, yeah. A few little problems, but nothing life-threatening at the moment, anyway. Well, life-threatening in the fact that every day is getting nearer.
It's getting nearer for everyone every day.
It's true. Yeah,
it's true, yeah. But
yeah,
I mean, it is hard, isn't it? Because you have, you know... I mean, I'll admit, when people die, you know, they put celebrities up that die in their, you know, mum's kind of era or, you know, younger. Yeah. It is a bit like, isn't it? It's sort of, I think that's something we all have to realise, though.
Well, the worst thing for me is losing so many friends and relations.
Yeah.
Some of them younger than me, well, most of them younger than me.
Yeah.
And that is very hard because you become more and more alone.
Yeah, it's really hard.
So that is the worst bit.
A lot of ladies around here say that you know, well, all my old friends have gone.
Yeah, exactly.
And, but I mean, Mum's lucky that all of her children live in the UK. And
Yeah, I was in striking distance.
yeah, so, you know, and we're a great kind of tag team when Mum has had a couple of health problems.
Yeah.
We
I did the right
literally,
thing.
I like it. I mean, honestly, like a tag team. You know, I got a phone call. Mum needs to get up to London to the hospital.
Well, I had an appendix problem, which I didn't know was an appendix.
No.
By a good stroke of luck, one of my grandsons, who was a nurse, happened to be there, and he alerted his mother, also a nurse, who alerted her sisters. And the next thing I knew, one of my daughters came up and stayed with me overnight. And the next morning, we got an early ferry over to Helen's house, or to Helen. Helen met us at the ferry. I was transferred to her car. I was up in London in a couple of hours, where my daughter, the nurse, was waiting at the front of the hospital. Rushed in, because thank God she knows people. Saw a consultant who arranged tests immediately. I was transferred to the next hospital. They operated the next morning, and I stayed in one night, and the following morning I was transferred back into my daughter's car and driven home to her house. This is Helen, who looked after
My
me.
daughter, me.
Yeah, who looked after me for 4 weeks until I recovered. That was teamwork.
But it was, and also the thing was, obviously none of us knew what was wrong with Mum. And when it was your appendix, we couldn't believe it.
No.
You know, of all the
doctors
things. And then they came in and they said to Mum, I was there with my sister, the nurse, and they came in and said to Mum, oh, you know, how do you feel about a DNR, do not resuscitate? And I was like this, and Mum went, no, yeah, absolutely, no, DNR. And my sister, the nurse, went, can we just have a little chat for a minute? And the doctor said, yeah, of course, you don't have to rush into it. And my sister, who's the nurse, said, like, Mum, you're doing really well, you know, you could just have a little glitch on the table, but if you say do not resuscitate, they're not going to do anything. So, you know, can we have it on a kind of a needs must basis? And so thankfully Mum said okay, because I was still in shock, sitting in the corner of the room thinking, flipping Ada. And yeah, and it was a hard road to recovery, wasn't it? I mean, and when I brought Mum back that day from the hospital, it was awful. Mum was so weak and vomiting, and it was really, she should never have. One night at how old were you? Like 88 or something?
I was older than that. I was 89,
well, yeah. So anyway, it was a very, very tricky time.
Yeah.
But you did recover really well. I mean, Mum got very frustrated. Anyway, we won't go on about that, but she got very frustrated, and we saw the doctor, and it was almost like the next day you just sort of picked up, didn't you?
Yeah.
Doctor said, like, what do you expect? You've had major surgery. And then you just sort of started to pick up, didn't you?
Yeah, turn the corner.
So anyway, so that was all good. And yeah, so Mum's been cooking, cleaning, doing everything. Pardon?
I said, I don't have a big medical history.
No, and that is just luck, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
you know, we're very, very lucky as a family that we've had no real, you know,
touch wood,
cancers, and you know, we have been touched by cancer. Of course, who hasn't? Because we're a huge family now. I think there's something like 39 of us in our family unit, if not more. You know, every time we have a party or anything, you can't believe how many. But we've been very, very lucky. And that is just luck, isn't it? You can't, you know, I mean, we're not like, you know, nobody's been drugs or, you know what I mean? Like, we've lived a fairly sort of modest life. But
well, I mean, it's just ideal, isn't it? We're idyllic, really, when we're so lucky.
Yeah, very, very
so
lucky.
Yeah, nothing, thank God, has really, whatever traumas we've been through, we've survived.
Yeah, we've got through the other side. You know, we've had hiccups like every family.
Yeah, quite.
But anyway, so, you know, it was just really...
Wait for the next instalment.
Wait for the next instalment, yeah. A lot of people, I sort of said about Mum coming. Oh, hello, Dolly.
Hello, Dolly.
Dolly's just chucked up again. I just had to clear that up before. What it is, I think, she eats... We're giving her her food now in one of those maize bowls so that, you know, she has to eat more slowly. But I think where she'd been down to the beach this morning, I think she swallowed some salt water.
Yeah.
And then... yeah, it brings it up again. So that's disgusting. The joys of dog ownership.
Oh,
But anyway, yeah, mum loves
love
Dolly a lot, and I tolerate Dolly a lot. But anyway, that's it for now. I probably will do a live at the end of this week, and once I've got that sorted, I will put out the date on here and on Instagram. Helen Mary Jo, hello. I hope you've enjoyed this. Like I say,
sorry if we went on a bit.
Hey?
I said sorry if we went on a bit.
Well, you know, Mum, that's why there's a fast forward button.
Yeah, true.
If you're not
yeah,
interested,
yeah, true, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm glad we've done it anyway. So from a purely selfish point of view, I'm glad we've done
She's
it.
got me on the record.
Yeah, I've got her on record. There's loads and loads of stories. I mean, you know, maybe another time we'll talk about Mum's Irish family and her heritage, because there's so many stories over there, and you know, I'm very proud to have Irish blood in me.
Like it. Yeah.
Huh?
There's nothing like it.
Nothing like it. I mean, one of my biggest compliments was when I had an Irish chap living with us for a little while. He was a teacher at the school, and he said, "You're the most Irish Englishwoman I've ever met." And I was like, I'll take that as a really big compliment. On that note, I'll say goodbye and see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.
Your scarf is a bit like Flying Nun. It's just an awful lot of bow.
Like that? Like that?
No, it's fine. Right, stop now.
Like that.
Okay.
Right. I'll put that all up my scarf. I bought this at a charity shop.
We're not starting